Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Daily Detroit. It is Thursday, September 28th, 2023. I am Jer Stay, sharing what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan. Joining me on the other end of the line, I know one of your favorites out there, Robin Runyan from Urbanize Detroit. Robin, welcome back to Daily Detroit.
Thank you for having me again, Jer.
Man, what a week or two in development. Since the last time we talked, I feel like everything has happened.
It was really quiet. Not quiet, but a little quiet for a while, and now everything has happened. So, yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
For sure. But before we get into that, I understand from you in our kind of show pre-chat that the last Tigers game of the season is sold out. Wow.
So a friend just texted me asking if I was going to go this weekend, and he said that Sunday was sold out. I'm probably going to try to figure out a way to go on Sunday either way. I don't care.
Do listeners have tickets for Robin? DailyDetroit@gmail.com.
Yes. I'm such a fun person to go to a ball game with. Because I am going during the week this week, but the more I think about it, I definitely want to go this weekend because it's Miggy's last weekend, and I'm getting pretty sad thinking about it. And I'm just so grateful we've had him for so many years. Nobody has more fun playing baseball than Miggy.
He's definitely a personality that is big. And, seeing Fletcher's posts about it, because he went to a game recently, he was in his feelings about it too, because I don't think Miggy gets enough credit. I don't know why, but he is such a special player and somebody that connects to so many Tigers fans in really personal ways.
He's been there a very long time, and we kind of take for granted that he's, this Hall of Fame player in our presence because, the last few years haven't been the best, and we get that, but he's putting up numbers that are really incredible, and we're going to feel the loss next year, I think.
For sure, and I think people are looking for reasons to go to the ballpark. Miggy gives that, although I would love to see him. I'm really interested to hear about this idea that he could be part of the coaching staff or stay with the team in some respect going forward, like he's kind of teased.
Oh, yeah, that would be super fun. I definitely would like that.
Before we jump into everything happening around different neighborhoods of the city, we got to talk about this Eastern Market thing. Listeners will know there was a collapse in Eastern Market during peak time on a Saturday, a building at Russell and Winder. There's been a lot of questions, Robin. What's going to happen next?
What we know now, the owner had submitted an appeal. The city was very quick to say demo the building. The owner submitted an appeal. They gave him a timeline. So now BSeed is saying that they've reviewed and accepted the engineer's letter. They're letting people back in. They're going to get permits, related documents, and the building will be saved.
That is a huge deal for those businesses that, frankly, some of them, I think, may not have made it if they couldn't get their stuff back.
Yeah, I used to go to that gym all the time, like a few times a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a busy building. There's a lot going on in there, and it was really hard for those businesses to figure out the next steps. So this is great news for them.
Yeah, I think Detroit versus Everybody had like $150,000 worth of product in there. I understand that people were working out in the gym when the wall came down.
That would be like my nightmare. Basically, that is my nightmare come to life.
Wow. Yeah, I can't even imagine. Well, I'm glad that they're going to be able to get their stuff. I think it might help save these businesses. I'm also interested to see what kind of repair work is going to need to be done. As I've said before, I've seen other walls fall off or partial walls fall off of buildings, and they fix the building up. And it seems like they might be able to do that here.
Yeah, I hope so. It's a great looking building, adds to the character and charm of the neighborhood. So it's good news.
Talking development, let's get into it. East Warren has some developments happening, and that's a corridor that is in a Detroit neighborhood that's been seeing some attention due to the Strategic Neighborhood Fund. Some projects are happening. What's happening on the east side, Robin?
A lot. That corridor of East Warren, I've been wanting to write about it for a while just because we see things here and there, but altogether it's making for a pretty incredible transformation of the street. There was a groundbreaking earlier this year for the Ribbon, which is a new construction, and that'll have residential and restaurant in the development. But also there's a few more that they told me about. One, the Deco, so they're taking an old beauty school with 6 residential units above, and then a restaurant below. The East Warren Public Market, which looks like it's going to be a pretty big deal, and that'll be really exciting to watch. 2 commercial kitchens, big prep space, a lot of micro retail space, farmers market, just a lot of really good stuff that I think will bring the community together. And then there's another one on the horizon that's going to do 32 units of affordable housing and office space. So, yeah, quite a few things going on over there.
There's a lot of change happening in that neighborhood, and if people don't know, if you're listening in another area of town, it goes Mackin and Warren on the east side, and this strip of Warren is just inside the city of Detroit there. The Grosse Pointes are to the east of it. You can still access all the Grosse Pointe things. You got 94 right there. And just driving through it, things are more kept up. You can see the investment happening. You can see the new protected bike lanes. You can see the people pouring into their homes in a way that, downtown and Midtown get a lot of the attention, but East English Village in that area is a desirable place for a lot of people right now.
Yeah, and this area kind of covers a few pretty established neighborhoods, East English Village, Cornerstone Village, and Morningside. And kind of in addition, what they were celebrating last week was the opening of 2 more businesses, 2 more storefronts that are also very community focused, a cafe and a bookstore. I'm always in favor of bookstores opening. I just think they're great places for people to get together, and another space that's going to open this winter. So it's really exciting to see just the vibrancy over there.
What do you think's driving some of that?
The East Warren Development Corporation has done a lot of work within the community, seeing what people need, what people want, and kind of working with local developers to try to make that happen, trying to make it easier for businesses to make it happen. The Strategic Neighborhood Fund, which has gone across multiple neighborhoods in the city, it really helps out in just improving how spaces look. You have kind of bike lanes and these improved sidewalks and improved parks. It helps build up the businesses around there.
For sure. Let's swing over to Corktown. Their newest development is the Perennial Corktown, a series of apartments that's looking to welcome residents soon. This one's on a little bit higher end of the market. You had a chance to tour it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so this encompasses a few properties. Most people have probably seen the large 7-story apartment building going up on Michigan Avenue, right across from the old Tiger Stadium. The Bucharest Grill used to be there. And so there's going to be a lot of apartments in there. That one's still being worked on, but they should be ready pretty soon with those. If you're wondering about price, 10% will be affordable. We always put the quotes around affordable because we know it's not always the case. But they will be running from, we'll say, for a studio, $1,650 a month, up to, for the apartments themselves, $3,875. For like a 2-bedroom apartment in the building there.
Wow.
Yeah. So they talked about a few amenities that are going to help this stand out and make it kind of worth the price. They actually have quite a bit of amenities. They have kind of higher end finishes, lots of closet space for people, a lot of community space, and like a demo kitchen that people can use. But the big thing that he talked about was this 10,000 square foot pool deck, which is on the 2nd floor. It's going to have like all these chaise lounges and cabanas and grills. And the picture looked really nice. Next summer, we could be seeing a lot of pictures on the Instagram of people hanging out at that pool there in Corktown.
There's also some townhomes in this mix too.
Yeah, so we went through one of those, and there's 7 townhomes, and these are pretty nice. So there are 3 stories. The first story has a 1-car garage, and inside, like, kind of a space that could be an office, and then a pretty large closet as well. On the 2nd floor, you have your living space with the kitchen, the living room, and the dining space. And on your 3rd floor, you'll have your bedrooms, which again have these really big closets that we don't see in a lot of places. They also have a rooftop deck. And the one we went on, you had a pretty nice view of the downtown skyline. So that's kind of cool. These will run you a little bit more. The 2-bedroom for these starts at $69.10.
Okay.
And the 3-bedroom can run up to $83.30.
That's like $1 million house payment, right?
Yeah, it's a lot. And it's interesting to see, the developers, they seem pretty confident that they're going to find people to occupy these spaces. It's a high price, and we're seeing some of those come online soon, at the new waterfront building that's being built, the high rise down there. Those also have really high rent prices too. So TBD, we'll see if we have the market for that.
Robin, there was a change of plans as well with this that you learned about.
Originally, the developers were going to demo this 100-year-old building kind of behind this whole development. It used to be a storage building. They used to make soda there. It's had a lot of uses in the past, and they were going to tear it down. Community feedback was not in favor of that. Community felt very strongly that they should keep this building. And so they will be turning it into 25 lofts, and they're going to start construction on that in November.
I like a little preservationist win.
We need all the wins we can get, Jer.
It will be an interesting test. Now, I wanted to ask you about something that we talked about a little bit on the Friday show. We did that episode with Devin talking about downtown and residents and things like that. And I do think that two things can be true at the same time, that there could be a market for this higher end, but also a market for something in the more, accessible price points, shall we say. We got a ton of feedback from people. One, that they felt like their rents were going up in recent years in downtown, and that they feel like a lot of the price points aren't as accessible for them to stay. And I wonder how you feel about this. And do we need more things online that are more of that couple of $1,000 a month thing versus, something like this? What is your sense about all this? Because all this product's coming online, but the number one thing I get in the feedback is always, oh my gosh, that's so much money. Who's paying for these?
Right. I felt this way for a long time, that we don't have enough of that middle ground. The city has really been pushing these affordable apartments at different rates, and then we're seeing these higher end ones. And I know from looking for rentals, in the past 8 years or so, that it's very difficult to find that right middle ground for like a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment. I lived in Hamtramck for a while, which is still on the reasonable kind of side, although you're starting to see rents go up over there as well. Middle ground would be amazing if they can make the math work, which developers have a hard time doing here.
So why is that math so hard to make work?
From what I've heard people say, it costs as much to build a building here as it does in Boston, but people can pay a lot higher rents in Boston. So we just need, everything we always talk about, better jobs, more people, just all those things to kind of start to make it work.
That's interesting. I wonder if there'll be there's got to be another way to look at this. Because, if that's the case, then I feel like there's no way to get out of that situation. If that is truly the case, where if everything costs the same, I guess I see where the math challenge is there.
Yeah, it all takes a while here, but it's going to take a while to turn that around.
Now, I happened to text you while you were touring this building about some breaking news that you then covered on Urbanize. And let's talk about it, because a lot of people are in their feelings about this demolition of the St. Patrick's Church that is kind of tucked behind the DSO and the senior center over there, built in 1926, last service, I want to say 2015, 2016, something like that. There's a lot of rumors. We don't have it confirmed what's going to be there next. So I'm going to stay away from that because I don't like to report rumors. Right. But wow, this kind of caught people by surprise.
Yeah, it was kind of a bummer text to get, Jared. I'll be honest with you.
The hard part about being a news editor is sometimes you mess up people's day.
Right. I go see these really nice new apartments, and then, another building is being torn down and nobody knew it was going to be happening. And yeah, so this is right behind Orchestra Hall, and there's a big senior center right next door. And there were a lot of seniors, sitting outside kind of watching it happen and fairly upset about it too. It looks like a really pretty old building that we don't have anymore. And, I'm a preservationist at heart, and we have a lot of preservationists here who try. I just hate to see this happen, because we have this beautiful building stock in the city. And when we start taking that away, we start taking history away. I mean, I know it hasn't been used for a while for its intended purpose. I always look at the congregation as kind of this ideal for what could happen to old churches. I love the congregation. A lot of people do. I mean, it's a great place to
Same.
go, meet people, have a meeting. My book club meets there sometimes, which is a really great space to do that. And I feel like there could be like 5 more congregations around the city and they would all be busy. You hate to see it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I was in a city everyone hates, and there's a coffee chain there called Stoff's in a church about the same size. It's a little bit smaller. And it was absolutely cool to grab coffee and do some work there. And it was a adaptive reuse in a very busy neighborhood with tons of residents. And I feel like we miss these opportunities when we take out places like this. Now, I understand that this was part of the condition of a sale from the Archdiocese to an unnamed buyer. A lot of people are saying it's the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. I'll just put that right out there.
Yeah.
I wonder if this kind of demolition before sale is going to become more prevalent because I know that there were some people who knew it was going to happen, but I feel like it's easier to tear down a building by the current owner before sale than after. And then the new person doesn't. Yes, people will like figure it out and follow the trail. But I also know that like there is that like I didn't demolish it kind of situation. And I worry that we're going to see more of this.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. The Archdiocese said that the developers said that the renovation would have been cost prohibitive. And a few people who looked at the property said that, which we know it does cost quite a bit to redo these buildings. So, it wasn't in a historic district, unfortunately.
Yeah, a lot of people said it was, and I didn't think it was.
No, I checked with my historic expert, and he said that it was not.
Yeah, and that's just going to be the way that, unfortunately, crumbles with the
Right.
effort of a demolition machine. So thank you to our listeners, by the way, for pointing this one out. I'm sorry I was out of town when this happened, so I just wanted to flip it around to people who could do something with it. I do think it is a loss, and I really hope that we can start to think of a way to reuse these things. And the congregation makes it work, but I wonder if for them and the level of investment that people want to do, is the juice worth the squeeze thing. And that kind of points to that kind of like weird market that I feel like we have right now in Detroit, where there's some things that really go, and then there's other things where it's like it's such a confusing market right now.
And it's so hard for small businesses. Like we see it every day. We see another business close. I mean, I'm sure you saw it this week. The Motor City Brew Works on Livernois is closing their shop. It's really hard for small businesses right now. So you have to take that into consideration as well when you're redoing these spaces.
Yeah, Norma G's over at Jefferson's Chalmers recently closed too. They just couldn't drum up the clientele that they needed to make it go. So it's a challenge. Now, from something like that to news about the $3 billion development around Henry Ford Health, Michigan State University, the Pistons, I still think probably the most underrated development story. It's a big story. You and I talk about it, but it doesn't seem to get the same kind of traction as others. But I think long term, this is going to be a really big deal. And I think that this one is going to happen.
Yeah, this one will definitely happen. This is a collaboration between entities that have footprints in that area already. You have Henry Ford Health building a new huge hospital tower. You have MSU, who recently became majority owner in the Fisher building. They're involved with the research center over there. And the Pistons have their practice facility over there, and they're involved with this development as well. Just to let people know, so we have the hospital tower involved, so that's on the west side of the lodge. You come across the lodge to the east side, and we have a new medical research facility, 2 new mixed-use buildings, an adaptive reuse of one Ford Place. There'll be a lot of residential green spaces, and then a big parking deck. So that's what we're looking at. It's a lot of money. So this one is going through the Community Benefits Ordinance process, which starts next week. So that comes about when a development is over 75 million and either receives 1 million or more in property tax abatements or 1 million or more in value of city land or transfer. I had to read that because that's like very particular what they need. And some developments do it anyway, just because you get the community more involved with what you are doing. And it's kind of a giving back to the community, hopefully in a way. So Anybody can sit in on these meetings. I think they start on Tuesday, and there is like a Zoom link that you can go to. I sometimes just, listen in to see what's going on. You can also usually learn a little bit more about developments, maybe some of the details. Some of the things I'll be listening for are like timeline and funding and kind of who will be doing what. This should be on people's radar. Like, this is going to be huge. It's going to be a massive, like, I know I say the word massive a lot, but this $3 billion, and it's not downtown. It's in New Center, which is awesome.
And it's eds and meds, which is a key to revitalizing many cities around the country. The impact area on this one's pretty big too, and includes a lot of residences. It goes from 94 in the south to Woodward in the west, all the way up to Euclid Street. Which, then now you're starting to get closer to my neck of the woods, and then over to Rosa Parks Boulevard. And there's a lot of, there's a lot of different constituencies in there, but that's definitely a sizable impact area if you think about it and the number of blocks it is. Yes, you've got Henry Ford Hospital in there. Yes, you got a few other things that are large developments, but it kind of gives you scale that this is going to transform that whole section.
Yeah, and so part of this community benefits process is forming this neighborhood advisory council. So they will have members of that area on that council to kind of work together themselves and with the developers to come up with the benefits that they would like to see in their neighborhood.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be something to watch. Before we wrap up here, I want to talk a bit about some things happening in the area that's roughly called the District Detroit. There is this Henry Street development. It's getting a state loan. It's interesting to see. It seems like there's multiple pieces happening here in the District Detroit, some going forward, some not so much.
Yeah, this Henry Street thing, let me tell you. So when I was at Curbed in 2017, there were plans to tear down a couple of these buildings, and preservationists rallied. They got together and they made it happen, and they got a historic district around this area so we could save and preserve these buildings. This particular development has been in the works for quite a while. I know I reported on it a couple years ago. So it's Olympia and Cinnair. And Cinnair does a lot of work around the city, especially with affordable housing. This covers 7 buildings, and it's going to bring 170 apartments and some green space. It's just a few blocks away from Little Caesars Arena. So this is a loan. They're getting the funding together. We don't have a timeline, but this is definitely, it looks like it is moving forward. This isn't a part of the big District Detroit plans, which have not broken ground yet.
Yeah.
There's a very big part of that has not broken ground yet, and that's the Center for Innovation. U of M needs to approve this to make it happen, and they need to do it by the end of the year.
Yeah, time is a ticking. I want to circle to that. I will mention, though, that this Henry Street, if they actually do get this done, it's actually going to be a really nice set of apartments that are still standing. There was a lot of fear that they were going to be demolished, and to see them get some life is... it's better than the alternative, because I thought these buildings were goners.
Oh, yeah, a lot of people did. And honestly, the rendering looks pretty nice. It looks like a very quaint little, spot in Lower Cass Corridor. So, yeah, I hope that they can make it happen pretty soon, because I think it would be a nice addition. Be nice to have more people in that area.
Let's have some real talk about this U of M thing, now that you mentioned it. I wasn't sure I was going to go here, but here's the thing. I'm starting to feel less confident this is ever going to happen.
I know.
I used to be big on board, Stephen Ross, everything else, and it seems like U of M changed their leadership and have backed away. That's just my feeling.
I know. They have to make it happen. Come on, they have to make it happen.
Do they? Do they? Because, U of M's kind of a conservative, not a big C conservative, but they're conservative in their approach. This was under a different thing. They've already said they're taking over the development part of this. Yeah. They haven't signed off on it yet. The money is about to run out if they don't sign off on it.
So for people who don't know, $100 million was earmarked in last year's Michigan budget for this development, the Center for Innovation. And in order for them to keep that $100 million, they need to break ground this year.
I feel like we've got a shift in plans happening. I see there's going to be that Marshall battery plant that's vaunted by everyone. All that money in subsidies. Ford, put a big pause on that. I really don't know, especially with the delays with District Detroit, the fact that, they decided to make their first project on land they don't own. I'm like, this is some clown car stuff.
Yeah, you're becoming cynical, Jer. I think a little bit. I get it. Like, you have to look realistically at all this stuff, and a lot of different pieces are working together here. I think some of this will get done. The bigger picture, I think some of this will get done. The Center for Innovation, yeah, I'm not so sure anymore. I hope so.
I would love to hear you all's thoughts. 313-789-3211 or dailydetroit@gmail.com. Do you think that U of M development is in peril? You know, what do you think about some of these neighborhood things? All that. I want to hear from you. And of course, Robin Runyan, thank you so much for spending time on Daily Detroit. Where can people find you?
They can find me around. They can find me on Instagram. I'm still on Twitter, kind of. Not really, but you know, I'm out there.
And of course, there's always Detroit.urbanize.city, where you're constantly doing updates, keeping us up to date with everything development-wise. And I appreciate your insight and perspective, and of course, sharing it with us on the podcast.
For sure. Happy to talk about it anytime.
With that, I'm J.R. Stays. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to our members, patreon.com/dailydetroit. You help make episodes like this possible. With that, I am J.R. Stays. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around Detroit.